Hello, welcome and welcome back. Thank you for joining me right now. I am going to be telling you about the Forlorn Hope, which is part 3 of my series on the Donner Party, my commentary. Thank you for joining me and enjoy. So, the Forlorn Hope. The name kind of says it all, doesn't it? This is a very tragic story. It can be definitely seen as a story of hope and survival, but at the end, it's just tragic. It wasn't a fun time for anybody. They did reach the goal, but at what cost? So, the Forlorn Hope, a brief history about where they're at and what it involves. The Forlorn Hope was a group of 17 men, women, and children that attempted to cross the Sierra Mountains to California from Donner Lake. It was then Truckee Lake, and this is, of course, they were all members of the Donner Party. So they'd been trapped at the lake in the winter of 1846 for a couple months, and all their food was gone, and they needed to go and find help and get relief for everybody else. So they started out with 17 members. 2 members turned back due to health concerns. They knew they couldn't make it. They were just dragging. That was William Murphy and Carl Dutch Charlie Berger. They both turned back. The ones that went on to make the 15-member Forlorn Hope were Mary Ann Graves, Sarah Graves Fosdick, Harriet Frances Murphy Pike, Sarah Ann Charlotte Murphy Foster, Amanda Henderson McCutcheon, William Henry Eddy, William McFadden Foster. We will center in on Eddie and William Foster further on. Antonio, I don't have a last name for him. Franklin Ward Graves, Patrick Dolan, Lemuel B. Murphy, Charles Tyler Stanton. And then there's the 2 Native American guides, Luis. I do have his actual native name in his tongue, but I am not sure if I can pronounce it. I will spell it on the screen. But it's Ema, E-E-M-A, in Salvador. And that is Quilloen. I probably totally murdered that. It's Queuyuen, and that is his name in his native tongue. So yeah, that's the crew that started across the mountains. They had about 6 days worth of food, and this food consisted of like 2 inches of dried meat. Yeah, that's 2 ounces, about 2 ounces of dried meat for people that were starving and barely making it already, and they were attempting to climb a mountain across like sometimes 20 feet snow drifts. It was a brutal journey. It took energy just to take one step because you're always at elevation. The air is getting at you. It's a hard struggle. It's not an easy trek at all, and they're barely eating. They're starving. It doesn't take too long before it takes a few days, but they start talking about last resorts. about things to do, and they started talking about cannibalism, survival cannibalism. And they at first said, well, we'll do it kind of like the custom of the sea. The custom of the sea is where the captain has the crew draw lots, and the person that draws the last lot is the one that is sacrificed for the rest of the crew. And that's supposed to be like a very democratic process. And one thing about the custom of the sea, and how that goes down, is that if anyone in the crew is in disagreement, it's not supposed to go down. You're not supposed to do it if everybody isn't on board with it, because anybody is on the chopping block. Anybody, literally, anybody is up for being cannibalized. So they started talking about that, and several members of the crew, especially William Eddies, was very, very, very much against it. He did not want to do it. He didn't think it was really necessary, that we shouldn't be killing each other, because that's it. Once you draw the lot, you're killed, you're sacrificed for the rest of the crew or the rest of the group. So Eddies was very much against that. And the first night they did draw lots, and somebody drew the last lot, but nobody could really, or the shortest lot, and nobody could bring themselves to do it. They couldn't. They decided to just go to sleep, and yeah, they didn't do anything about it. But eventually it did get to a point where people started dying of starvation, and there was bodies available that you didn't have to kill. And one gentleman, I can't recall his name right now, but one gentleman, actually told his daughter and his family that, I know I'm about to pass away. I know I'm about to die. Please, further your own life with my body. I give you my permission. Please do this. The daughter couldn't bring herself to do it. I can't remember if she actually partook of anybody else, but she couldn't take care. She couldn't do her father. And actually, that was part of the thing. They made sure that none of the other relatives were eating their relative. That was kind of like one thing they tried to kind of do to make it not as horrible for everybody. And there were kind of three different ways that people kind of dealt with this and accepted this. And they were kind of like a reluctant surrender to it, in kind of an eagerness, kind of a bloodlust for it. And then some members actually did refuse to partake. So yeah, the reluctant surrender, that's kind of like, okay, you're in a situation and you know that this is like, if you don't eat, you're gonna die. And you know that the rest of your family, the rest of your group needs relief, and you are the person that's trying to get that relief. And if you don't make it, then the rest of the people don't make it. Plus, if you don't make it, you'll never see your family again. And, you want to make it. And you know what you had to do. You're not enjoying this. It's not something that you're it's disgusting. It goes against you. It goes against everything you are, but you kind of have to in order to keep going. And honestly, the people were actually saying, please do eat of me when I'm gone. And so it was with consent. I mean, if that has anything to do with it, it was with consent. Most of them, or two of them, weren't with consent, and we'll get to those later. Eager, yeah, there was one gentleman William McFadden Foster. This guy, he's the one that kind of really egged on the murdering of the two native men that were, kind of trapped in this situation. He's the one that wanted to off them, because he was hungry and he obviously viewed them as less than the rest of the group. Thankfully, William Henry, who is a really kind of a standout guy in this whole thing, and I'll kind of go into him a little bit later. William Eddy, got to a point where he actually got in the William Foster's face, they're both William, Foster's face, and said, if you kill these men, I'm going to kill you. And that's the only way that, Luis and Salvador were able to survive, a few more days. At that point, actually, they were... Eddie's kind of told them, hey, y'all need to get going. These guys are not... No, y'all need to keep going. Y'all just go. And they went. And then there were, of course, some folks that refused. They refused to partake, and I can't recall who made it and who didn't. A lot of the accounts don't name names when it comes to who actually partook of anybody's flesh, so we're not sure exactly who. We do know some people did refuse, and they did die from starvation. So they're in the middle mountains. They've already eaten some bodies. They've made it some more miles down the mountain. And the guides are gone, and they stumble across the guide's footsteps. And they track these two human beings down like animals, and William Foster murders them, and they eat him. They eat these two human beings. And I'm still really I'm disgusted at all colonizers and the genocide and all that, but this specific thing, which is kind of like glossed over in so many histories, it's just specifically gross to me. So they kill the two guides. It is a long journey, y'all. They kill the two guides. They have a little bit more meat. A few more miles down the road, down the mountain, Eddie's is kind of fed up. He's wanting to get to where he's going, and you can tell that the rest of the group are dragging, because thankfully Eddie's wife actually snuck 6 ounces of bear meat into Eddie's clothes. So Eddie had a little bit more protein, a little bit more food than the rest of the crew, because she'd left it with a note, and the note said pretty much, please, eat this at your greatest hour so I can see you again. Pretty much. And so he had that extra bear meat, and he had a little bit more, willpower and a little more energy. And so he ended up taking the gun, because the group only had one gun, and he was going to go. He was going to say, fuck these guys. And then he had second thoughts, and he was like, told the group, hey, I'm going to go hunt a deer. And I'm going to go find some meat so that we're not eating each other, because this is awful. And one of the women decided to join him. I'll put her name up on the screen. I can't remember who it was right now. But this woman is the same woman that fucking William Foster wanted to murder. he actually had the gun, and he was like, hey, we should kill this woman because she's annoying me and she's dragging the group, and we just should kill her and eat her. And that's another point where Foster was like, hey, you fuck. No. And so, yeah, so this is the same lady. Probably she didn't want to stay alone with the crew. She was like, this is the only guy that, is probably not going to kill me and eat me. So I can understand why she would want to go with Eddie's at this point. But they leave, and they find a deer, and they actually do shoot a deer, and they are not strong enough to bring it that night. So they end up camping where they are and eating and dressing the deer and, getting it ready to, bring to the camp. But by the time they got to the camp, they already, started eating two other human beings. And Eddie was like, what the fuck? Y'all need to stop. I think Eddie's was just, really disgusted and just like, done. But he also knew he had to get through it. Oh, I feel for this man. It's awful. So yeah, they get the deer, and they that's their last bit of really good sustenance until they get to some native villages. And when these native people saw these white folks stumble out of the mountains looking like friggin' death walking, literally sunken in, starving, creepy, scary, they ran. They were scared. They were like, oh fuck no. But eventually they did, have compassion, and these people were weeping looking at these people, and they didn't have much. They had acorn bread and the bare minimum, because it's fucking middle of winter. It's a hard winter. That's why the pass was fucking snowed in so early. It was a hard winter. And so, but even so, they did offer what they could to these people. It wasn't enough to really sustain them, and they still had to keep going because they couldn't just stay and heal up at these villages for so many reasons. They didn't want them there, but they did lend some of their folks to help them walk to the next village, and then they kind of passed from village to village to village until they started hitting ranches. And at this point, Eddie's is still a little bit stronger than everybody, and he's trying to get everybody going, and everybody's just they can't go. They're just stumbling along, and finally they don't have guides anymore. They don't have people helping them along. So it's Eddie just leaves them. But they're across the mountains, they're kind of safer. They're on a road, and they're on around ranches. They're safer than, and lost in the mountains. So Eddie heads to the fort and gets relief. So that's the Forlorn Hope. It's an awful story. It's an awful story. It's an awful story, but these folks did what they had to do to either save themselves or save the rest of the group. And unfortunately, Eddie's does go, he does actually heal up a little bit, and Eddie's actually goes back over the fucking mountains to try to save his family in second relief. But unfortunately, his whole family dies. So, he doesn't even have his family. But even though he lost everything, he saved people, and that's pretty incredible. And even though, they were all in that horrible survival cannibalism situation, Eddie's was just he got through it, but he didn't like it, and he took extra efforts to make sure that, hey, we're doing the bare minimum. We're not sitting here and just feasting. We're not. We can't do that. We got to get. The whole point is to get over the mountain. It's not. Yeah. So I'm gonna get into the 4 relief parties coming up. Some other members of the Forlorn Hope, I do believe, joined some of the other relief parties, and I'll be taking note of that in that video. Thank you so much for listening. Yeah, it's a long, brutal story, sad story, horrific story. Thank you for joining me in it. It's something that, you know, I think people should think about, not in a weird way, but in a, you know, realistic way that, you know, hey, what would I do? You know, what would the people around me do? You know, it's good to think about sometimes. Yeah, like, share, subscribe if you like this content. Comment, tell me what you do like, what you don't like. I'm still really new to these commentary videos and sharing my thoughts and things. So I could definitely use some advice or some criticisms, or you know what? If you can say, "Hey, great job," that'd be fucking awesome too. I need that too. Thank you, and thank you for your assistance. Thank you.